Okay, in this video I plan to get the health of my LSI rate adapter seen by ESXi. Let me explain. I've got the update rollup installed. What that means is if we look here, we'll see my version shows 474610. Now, take a look at this link. Whoops. That number actually shows slightly different. Either way, both of these are newer than the August release. And both of them include the LSI RAID controller driver. So what does that mean? Well, it means we don't have to do the first part of this process. How to make LSI see the RAID adapter? Well, it sees it already. Let me explain. Go to configuration, go to storage adapters, and as we move down the list, it'll show what it sees, kind of explaining what it is as we go. Here's a 1 terabyte drive on there. It's just a SATA port. There's an external RAID enclosure on that one. Another external enclosure on that one. Nothing there. A SSD in there. Another SSD. And here's the LSI, Mega RAID. Okay? So we don't need the driver, but we do want to see the health. If we click on hardware status, the LSI is not seen, I believe. Let's take a look here. We look under L, we look under M. So no Mega RAID, nothing beginning with L or M. Okay, so as the directions say, we go and we get the driver. And it tells us to go ahead and unzip it. So go ahead and set that up. Okay, so here's the driver file. And I want to show that it matches my directions. And if we look at the file name, double click here to resize, and sorry, just trying to make it so it's obvious what file I'm looking at. Here's the download link. If we hover my mouse over it, okay, it's going to bring up the link. Let's just go here, and that's a driver. And we already have the driver. What I really want is the health info. So scrolling to the health info here. Okay. Scrolling to the health info. Right here, how to get it so you can see the health of the RAID controller. We download the zip file, and the zip file has that file name. So as I have my mouse over, you can see on the bottom it matches perfectly what I've already got downloaded right here. Okay, next, unzip it. Okay, I'm on it. Okay, and it tells me that all I really care about is the VUM file inside. So once you obtain the file, unzip the archive, and the only files you care about are these two, Vib provider and README. So this file is one we care about. And inside the DOC is the README, which explains in detail what we're about to do. Let's go up a level. Sorry, too far. Okay, so the VIB provider, right? Let's get this full path in my clipboard, and I'm going to need that in the next step to move it on SCP. I already have SSH enabled. I'm an ESXi host. Just to quickly recap, if you don't remember how to do that, click on the ESXi host, click on configuration, click on security profile, click on properties, click on SSH, click on options, and make sure it's set and running. Notice it says running. Okay, next, bring up WinSCP. There we go, WinSCP. Bring up a new copy. It's an old login. And here we go. We're going to log in straight into ESXi. And navigate our way to that opened folder. So we got the VIB file on the left. Let's put that down here, I guess. Let's get the instructions back again. And it tells us to go ahead and put it into the temp directory. Okay, so you can see that we're going to move that to there. Drag and drop. Default settings, fine. Okay, files uploaded. Next, patch it. So we now need to putty in and do these commands, both of which are shown in the screenshot, I believe. Let's take a look. Actually, that just shows the results. So let me leave this up at the top. Time to type start. Start and run. Run putty. So once we're in, type this. And now we type ESXCLI. Hit dash and hit tab, nothing. Okay, we got a problem. Problem is I typed it wrong. There we go. Hit enter. Interesting. Okay, so it's a little bit of a new twist to my instructions. Wasn't quite expecting that. I should also point out that we're going to have to reboot. Now, I've set these virtual machines that are running to auto start and stop with the system. So if I right-click and reboot ESXi, I'm not worried about it. They'll be gracefully shut down because I've set them here to gracefully shut down. But this is a new message I did not get last time, I don't think, so let me go ahead and type what it says. Okay, so it's going to want me to So the image profile wants me to tell me that it's certified. Let's see. Hit up arrow, hit dash. Yeah, this is weird. Set the host acceptance level. So we're going to tell the host to allow this code to be installed. So we need to lower this level. So it seems to, there we go. What I should have done is queried it first. I don't know if it would have told me. Okay, well, now if I hit up arrow twice, I should get that thing to install. So that's going better. Well, that's cranking away. If you look at the screenshot in the background, let me just bring that up quickly here. That screenshot is showing that when we're done, we'll be able to go in software components and see VMware SCSI Mega Read normal. So let's take a look at that. Storage adapter, sorry, health, hardware status, software components, VMware, no, never mind. The bottom of the list, SCSI Mega Read, nope. Okay, I gotta get that screenshot up. Let me just let this thing finish. Okay, so it finished. It warns me we're going to need a reboot, so we're not going to see any difference until we reboot. That's fine. And I should, in theory, crank this back up to the level that it was at. This is just a lab situation, so setting my level back to VMware Certified only, I think I'm still going to do it, because at least then I get a warning when I go to install software. It kind of lets me know it's not something VMware has certified themselves. So this is just about installing stuff. Let me just read a little longer the warning here, a little more carefully what the reading was. So this is about host acceptance level to new stuff, not what's already installed. All right, let's see if it lets me set that again. I'm going to hit escape. I haven't researched it enough, and I don't want to do something I haven't researched. So I'll reboot, but before I reboot, let's compare the screenshot here. Okay, so it looks like under health status for ESXi itself, we want to go to configuration, software components section. Get that a little bigger. So click on ESXi itself, and they're under configuration and under health. Looking here on the left, health status, right? And we don't even see that. So above the word processors, health status is going to show up after this reboot. Now that's an ESXi login, not vSphere. So I just want to be thorough. I'm just going to take a moment to log back in and make sure we're doing an apples-to-apples comparison. Notice the screenshot 469512, and I'm on 474610. Either way, anything newer than the initial August build, both have this newer LSI controller, or driver, excuse me. All right, so we've gone into ESXi, we go to configuration, health status is there. So that's normal. If we go to software components, and storage, software components under VMware MegaRAID, okay, VMware, what we'll find is an older one. Well, not necessarily older, excuse me. That's the driver. Let's go back in here. Alt-Tab's not working for some reason. Okay. If I can get this bigger, that'd be helpful. There we go, bigger. Okay. So we're looking at SCSI MegaRAID. Okay, let me bring this up, overlaying it. Perfect, much better. Now we can compare. So you'll see mine says 469.512, and so does the screenshot. August 19th, normal. So that's fine, we got the same driver, but what's interesting about the screenshot is it shows stuff up here like battery, status unknown. I've since actually purchased a battery. So right near the top, we should see a controller at the top of storage. Now let's compare that to mine. Back to mine. We don't even have the word storage showing up there at all. Okay, so now we've covered the differences, and now it's time to go ahead and reboot that machine. And let me just show you that these things automatically restart like they're supposed to. So we go to restart ESXi. And you'll see it initiated through the VMware tools, a shutdown to the OS very quickly. vCenter. And of course, we lose our connection because now ESXi itself is down. I'll resume the video in a few minutes when it's back up. Okay, I've rebooted. Time to log back in. Let's have a look at a new section called Storage that should be on the Health Status area. Go to Configuration, go to Health Status. That's a bit surprising. ESX host is what I need to click on first, and I did. All right, I clicked on Reset Sensors just for grins, but I'm not seeing a plus here or anything. I'm seeing it trying to paint something though when I move my mouse over it, so there we go. It just needed more time. The thing hadn't been booted all that long. Let's see actually what's going on down here. There you go. There's a lot going on. This is kind of cool. It's good to look under the hood. So it turned on some VMs auto start. It reset health sensors, which I just did a second time, which I shouldn't have. We're ready to click plus and see what goodness is in there. And there it is. Storage. And there's the battery unknown. That's disappointing. Let's compare to my screenshot from back then. It said battery status unknown, but it had an alert. All right, well, it's progress. It's not complaining about the battery status. It's just saying it doesn't really know how charged it is. And that's okay. If it was bad, I think it would still let us know. Optimal, I see the word optimal. So these are some external RAID volumes. That's interesting. And it's telling me that they're healthy. This is a Mediasonic enclosure on a eSATA cable right now. 2 of them. No idea what those numbers mean exactly. One's a RAID 0, one's a RAID 5. But it's good to know that their health shows here. And that battery status probably does show as well. All right. So if we look for the VMware MegaRAID, we should see nothing has changed. So back to the screenshot. Whoops. Not what I meant to do. There we go. Down here, I had my cursor highlighting MegaRAID under Software Components. Let me just do that again. And compare. Slide this up a little bit. And you'll see nothing changed. So this is not a device driver that was installed for the RAID adapter. That wasn't touched. All it is we've added this new storage paragraph, which is important, not just for LSI apparently, but now I can actually see my other RAID volumes attached to eSATA ports on the motherboard. One's an eSATA port actually that my Fractal Design case gives me, and the other is actually the eSATA port on the very back of the motherboard. So I find that interesting. The last test for me, since I have no data on here, this is a great time to test. I want to see what happens if my battery fails spectacularly, meaning since it's mounted on the back of my case, live I can go ahead and unplug it. And I don't know if I'm going to have to click refresh or I'm going to get a live look, but I'm curious. So I'm headed to the machine now, and it has a fairly easy to pull out edge mount connector. Get some light shining here so I can see what I'm doing. Is this a good idea while the machine's running? I don't know, probably not, but it's better to play with it now than when I actually have live data on here. And I really don't see this going to be a problem, like high voltage or arcing or anything. Okay, the way it's situated on the back is very easy. I've pulled it out, and now I'm headed back to the console. We'll see how long that takes to show up. If it shows up at all. I just saw the mouse kind of change as it painted that screen, but no change so far. So let me try a refresh. At the bottom, you'll see it's refreshing immediately and completing the refresh. So, it's possible the battery state isn't sent, or the RAID adapter hasn't noticed it and triggered an event. I don't really know. But this doesn't give me a lot of faith that I'll know if my battery backup is in a good state or not from ESXi itself. Part of the issue is I don't have MegaRAID running in a virtual machine reliably yet. I would like that someday, hopefully. And we can just look at MegaRAID and kind of check in on RAID health. But we don't have that option unless I dual boot or something for now. So I'm going to pause this video, give it, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, and then I might just want to go ahead and just reboot ESXi, and the RAID adapter should echo something on the screen to tell me my battery's failed, and then when I boot into ESXi, I want to see if at least then it's noticed the battery is a problem. So I'm going to pause this video right now. All right, it's about 5 minutes later, and still nothing. So do one more refresh. Nothing. Before I actually go forward with the reboot, I actually just want to log into vSphere, see if we get any different behavior. I doubt we will. We shouldn't. Although we know things are laid out a little differently as far as where you find this health status. Looks like vCenter didn't auto start. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and trigger a reboot. Of ESXi itself, and we'll actually watch during the reboot and see if the RAID controller complains. vCenter is running, but we can't log into it right now. It's up. Okay, so vCenter is acting a little odd. All right, so things are getting interesting now because the solid-state drive that's on the RAID adapter is where vCenter is running, I believe. And it got all unresponsive on me. So maybe yanking out the battery while it was live was just not a great idea. And that's okay. To learn something from it, let's see how this machine's behaving. Yeah, so those BMs, I think, both live on an SSD that's controlled by LSI. And they do. Now let's see if I have a VM I can power up that is not on the LSI. Okay. Having a little trouble finding such a VM at the moment. Looks like they're either on my LSI RAID or on my LSI attached SSD. Here's a Kingston SSD. So this thing should boot up nice and quickly and have no problems, despite me fiddling with batteries on the RAID adapter. So I just want to see if ESX itself is healthy. And all I've done is hosed everything that was attached to the RAID adapter. That's my theory. I'm about to find out if that theory is has any backing, any evidence to support that theory. And we want to see if I can power on a virtual machine here. It's not looking too good. It's taking really long. At the bottom it's saying powering on virtual machine in progress. Okay. It's not looking too good there. It's going to probably time out with some kind of nasty warning at some point. I think we've had enough. I think I'm convinced I've got a problem. I guess one last thing would be to try one other data store, one other SATA port. So how will we do that? Let's go to storage. Let's look at my 1 terabyte drive. It's not a SSD at all. Yeah, there's nothing on it. External RAID. Don't want to boot from that because I've got something in, let's see, it's also slow. No VMs on that one. It's blank. I'm about to redo it. Ah, those went south. So if we hit rescan, things are going to disappear, get gray, is what I suspect here. So we've really torqued things up. I think the USB install of ESXi is about all that's working. And even though it told those VMs to come up, if we click on them and look at summary, wow, it's saying tools is running. So it's amazing. It's responding to ping, but you can't do much with it. Let's see if we can putty to it. We can. Okay. So something has broken with connecting consoles to VMs. Right there. VM RC consoles disconnected. I don't really have a good theory, but if things come back clean after reboot, I'm not really worried about it. So now I'm going to reboot. At the bottom, you'll see the rescan and the power on never finished. And now I've got a way to set up so I can see the local console, what it's doing. So here's what the local console looks like. It doesn't show any evidence of a reboot yet. I might need to putty into ESXi and forcibly get it to behave. Still nothing. So local console showing nothing. ESXi here, still hung up on some long jobs that I can't right-click and cancel. So we're kind of stuck with local console and seeing if this thing responds. So let's see if I can get local console to respond in any way. Console is responding. It's good. Okay, rebooted that way. Could have puttied in too. Okay, even that's not working. Wow, vCenter's still up, so it's ignored my request to reboot. ESXi is still responding. This might be normal because it's trying to shut down those VMs set to the auto start, auto stop group. So I'm just going to pause this video and give it some more minutes to recover before I forcibly do anything with power switches and so forth. Yeah, it's 10 minutes later. It's still responding to ping, but still hasn't actually restarted. So I'm going to go power cycle the system. I'm not actually going to use the reset button on the front. I'm actually going to power off and power back on. And as I do that, I definitely want to watch what the LSI RAID controller does is it complains about losing its battery backup to its cache. Now the machine was powered up, the PCI bus energized. I don't think we're going to have any RAID corruption, but again, I have nothing I care about on here at the moment. This is a great time to test this and see how much I trust my RAID adapter. So I'm pushing and hold the power switch. It just powered off. The two eSATA attached enclosures are now shutting themselves down. Okay, those are off. Everything's spun down. Power back up. Head back up so I can watch the console as it's recorded here. We'll see what happens. So far, normal boot is expected, and now we're coming up on the RAID screen next. Here it goes. Appears to be taking extra long. Well, not particularly. It just jumped to 100%. The next screen is where it gets interesting, as it will probably complain about its battery. I'm not in front of the machine anymore. I'd be curious to see if the LED is staying solid on right now, or what it's doing here. One at every 5 or 10 boots. I was actually having the LSI take a little while to come up. Nothing to do with the battery. So I'm not particularly concerned because it does recover. So I'll just pause the recording of the video until it springs back again. So it immediately responds to Control-Delete. So a nice soft reboot. It's sprung things back to life because it's getting a little impatient waiting that long. So now let's see what the LSI says on the second boot. There we go. Cache data was lost. Press any key to continue. Cache data was lost. So it wasn't able to flush. So interesting. All right, I'm going to hit spacebar. Okay, so let's put them in a slow mode now to punish me. So all I did was hit spacebar. I didn't actually reconfigure it or tell it I have no battery, but now I've got a rejiggered RAID adapter. And it's going to boot VMware, and hopefully we'll see that no battery is present. So I tested VMware a little tougher than I meant to. Probably a quicker approach would have been to gracefully shut down, power off the box, pull out the battery connector, power on, and just to see if ESXi was monitoring the health of the battery. A little less compelling though, because it wouldn't. I was trying to simulate a battery that's low, but it went from full voltage to 0, and apparently the RAID adapter does not like that at all. So now I know that connector that goes to the battery, it's solidly in there, and it took a pretty decent pull. It's not like I'm going to inadvertently dislodge it. But now I know the integrity of my RAID array is actually suspect. And that's pretty interesting. We'll see if I have any evidence of corruption on any of my kind of test VMs. And again, I've got no super important data on here at all. The external RAID enclosures do have some data I care about, but I have 2 copies of everything, so I'll be fine regardless of what happens here. Now this sort of corruption or potential corruption, I'm kind of thinking, how would I test, right? Because VMware, VMFS file system and looking at its integrity, I don't know. But looking at the NTFS file systems running on Windows, or if they even boot, that'll be a decent start to have an idea if I've corrupted things or not. If they do boot, it doesn't mean I haven't corrupted them. But if they don't boot, it does mean corruption is likely bitten me worse than I thought. Okay, so we got the console back up and ready to try. Whoops. Sorry. Let's close. Let's get back into the console. And we want to see battery health. A little early to try logging in. Oh, it's coming up. Okay, click the plus, and my VMs are coming up. And things were in a steady state anyway. Linux was booted and doing almost nothing as it sat there at vCenter. The database hasn't been corrupted apparently. Well, I don't really know that until I do a test login, so let's try that. Oh, too early. That's right. That thing was just powered on. But anyhow, let's get to health here. So if we go to configuration, health status, the machine was just booted in, and we expect this. It takes a little longer to boot. It takes a little longer to show health after a reboot. We saw that earlier. And vCenter's not up yet, so it didn't make a lot of sense to try to log in so soon after rebooting SXI. Okay, so now we're waiting a couple minutes for the little plus to show up here so I can see the health and see some sort of warning about my battery. Also, my performance is going to be crummy because of what I've done to my cache, write-through mode. There's no write-back caching going on my RAID array. Wow. All right. So I did corrupt my RAID array. I did corrupt the data on there. Tucked that up pretty good. Let's see what Windows is doing. Windows came up fine. So we think about this. We've got some VMware templates maybe on a RAID array. The RAID array, the data set that was in use, like these 2 VMs that were booted, okay, they're suspect, right? But the other stuff, the other files that were just sitting there, that the VMFS file system wasn't even touching in any way or had opened, I suspect they're going to boot just fine. So while Windows is checking its integrity of its file system, remember we had only 2 things going. Let's see what the status of this thing is. It's on the RAID array, and let's see if it comes back from a suspend state just fine. Decent little test here. And I'm also watching checklists on the right to see if any evidence of crossing files or other nastiness, showing that Windows is very unhappy. So, check disk went fine. So we had one casualty of the battery incident, and that was vCenter. Big deal. I can deploy it literally in minutes from a template, like 3 minutes, and be back in action. Okay, and here, a drum roll moment. Finally, let's look at status of the battery. Can we see it? I see an alert. That's a good sign. I see storage complaining, and I see battery unknown missing. Okay. So if the battery voltage is low, what will it look like? I don't know. I'd have to put a resistor. I'd have to get the voltage to drop to simulate that. I'm not going to do that, but I think I'm done with this test. I'm now comfortable that at least some level of alerting is going on for my RAID adapter, and I'll know if things run healthy. That battery should last for years, not particularly worried about this. It's more interesting if the RAID array is degraded in some way, like if these were degraded, these external ones, or the LSI controller is degraded, it should let me know something's up. I'm hoping anyway. Good way to test that would be to, think about that, pull out a drive. So I've got a RAID 5 on there, and I've got an SSD on there. So the SSD is on a RAID 0, meaning it's the only drive involved. If I pull it out, the RAID adapter will complain, saying, I've lost a drive. Will ESXi, in turn, complain and give me a new alert here? So I'm going to test that. So I'm going to go ahead and shut down. And I'm going to go ahead over to the machine. And what I'm going to do is plug the battery back in and then unplug a single drive from the RAID array. I don't really want to mess with the RAID 5 because it's going to take hours to rebuild as it's scared it lost data. So I don't want to go there. But pulling out a single drive, that's fine. No big deal. So I'll continue this video after I've made those physical changes. Okay, so I've powered back on. And on the first boot, after a RAID change, I'm getting that same behavior, hanging 100%. So I guess that kind of tells me this particular firmware on this RAID adapter likes to hang on occasion. This is July 2011. The one before it, I think, never did that. So not that big a deal. Let's say Control-Delete and move on. On the second boot, it comes up every time. I've never had it fail to boot. It's just sometimes it fails to boot in the first power on, or the first boot after powering on the system. Or a soft reboot can sometimes also fail if a change is made, like yanking out a battery. All right. Now coming up, we want to watch it. The battery should be restored, which means we should be able to fix the cache. I'm just going to hit spacebar, actually. Okay, so we've blown past the air. It's going to be mad about the virtual drive, the RAID 0, which it can't find anymore, the solid-state drive. And that solid-state happened to house the two virtual machines, like vCenter. So we'll just log in with ESXi instead. That's fine. Okay. VMware itself is now booting. And we know we're a good 5, 6, 7 minutes away from being logged in with the vCenter client and seeing the status of the RAID array. So I'll go ahead and pause the recording of the video until I get further into the process here of actually seeing in the GUI the update. Okay, we're back and booted. Battery status unknown, but it's not red, so it knows the battery's back. And it seems the RAID controller has gone ahead and reconfigured things, so it looks like it simply took the RAID adapter out of the arrays and just said, I'm fine. So instead of operating a RAID 5 in a degraded state, I'm operating with a single RAID just temporarily missing. So I guess that doesn't trigger any kind of health alert, because it's not. It could just be a cable, which is true in this case. So I still do want to know what happens if a drive is missing in my RAID 5 and it has to rebuild. And that takes 2 days or something. So I'm kind of thinking about what I plan to work on the system while it's rebuilding for 2 days. And if I stick with the solid state drives instead of the spinning drives, they rebuild, I guess I'm okay. So I'm going to go for it. I'm going to have a drive fail. Now I've heard numerous things about actually removing power from a drive while going, particularly in a RAID array. But you know, shutting it down and having LSI configure and reboot, that doesn't seem closely aligned with reality to me. So I'm inclined to go ahead and just pull out power on a drive. So I'm about to degrade the state of my RAID by taking a drive entirely offline. It's not quite like reality in that I'm making a drive fail, not in the normal maybe smart sense, but I'm making it fail by a mechanical, physical problem. And in this case, the SATA cable is easy to pull out and reach, and it's labeled, and here it goes. Okay, so I just pulled out one of the drives in my RAID array. Now let's see what happens. Okay, first thing that happens is the LSI is beeping. So it's complaining. That's expected. The next thing is to see if anything happens over here now. Are we able to browse the drive, the storage? Probably just fine. Here's the RAID 5. That's external, excuse me, internal RAID. Yep, we can see it just fine. And let's go ahead and boot one of those VMs. So you'll see this VM hard drive lives on the LSI RAID adapter, which is degraded, and we can power it on, and it's not complaining. And it's going to boot and probably be a little slow because the RAID array is in the middle of rebuilding itself. And let's see how slow. Yeah, the beeping might drive us a little nuts, so I'm probably not going to leave this running too long. And this is one of those examples where probably would have been smart if I had Mega RAID working, where I could actually disable the alarm easily. And Mega CLI, I guess I could also. Gotta think about that. So if I have a CLI way, to issue commands to the RAID. I'd probably be able to disable the alarm there as well. Anyhow, so far, yeah, I can, operate a virtual machine. But I was kind of hoping that it would tell me my array is degraded. And so far, okay, it took a while, but it did show up. Excellent. Is this the right one? RAID 5. Sure is. So cool. When I hover my mouse over it, it pops up. RAID 5. Degraded. The word degraded. I am now impressed and convinced I know what's going on with my system. Awesome. Guess one last thing to try would be do a little speed test. Now the RAID controller is a big cache, so I'm going to crank it up to 2 gig to really abuse this thing. So I've got a degraded RAID array. I made it, let's see, I think I have the rebuild rate at a crazy high 99%. And on reboot, I can go ahead and hit Control-H and get into the web BIOS. I can disable the alarm, and I can change the rebuild rate. But again, being at 99%, it should have a significant impact on the speed of I/O. And actually, so far, this looks quite usable while the RAID is in its degraded state. So I'm feeling pretty darn good about this. If a drive fails and my machine's doing backup duties or whatever, the fact that I'm already seeing these numbers, I'm quite impressed. So this is all good. This is worth it. All I've done is corrupted one virtual machine, and but I've built a whole lot more confidence in this RAID controller in the process, and that my alerting is actually working with my device driver and my component that I added, which was really what this video was originally about, was talking about that. But anyhow, while this finishes up, let me plug that drive in. I seriously doubt the beeping will stop until the next reboot. Okay. That drives back in, and you may recall I killed the SATA drive as well, and that drive's now plugged in as well. It doesn't seem to mind that I did a hot add of a drive while it's still running. Again, not a smart idea in production, but a good idea to do to test, to build confidence. Looking over here, we don't really expect to change there until I reboot. But yeah, this benchmark is essentially, more than acceptable. These speeds are fine for running. We're seeing a bigger performance impact in these larger sizes, larger transfer sizes, correct. Normally you see a nice curve and it goes up and up and up. But again, that's okay. So this is where a decent RAID controller kicks in. It's still going to take days when you have terabytes of data rather than a week maybe. But, it's handling this well. I'll just let that finish. I haven't gone this long. So I'm going to shut down this virtual machine. Sorry, getting my exercise, running up and down the stairs here. And pause the VM when it's done. Don't really need to shut it down. I'll just leave it right where it is. Okay. Let me grab a comparison. Hang on. Yeah, I don't have a comparison file handy. Okay, it's time to shut down that virtual machine. Or, excuse me, pause it. Close that. All right, what's next? Well, RAID array still unhappy. We've got two messages now. So we've got degraded, and we've got this one, which is the unconfigured drive. It's all making sense. So now it's time to reboot. Okay, we should be able to watch it reboot now. We go back here, we see ESXi has gone down. And that's good. And it's rebooting. So I'd say this machine's handling remarkable stupidity quite well as far as protecting the data in the RAID. Okay, foreign. Yes, F. So I hit F to import a foreign config. That's very much intentional because, whoops. Okay, so I hit Control H followed by F2 and I messed up. Let's try that again. So what I'm supposed to do is hit, let's reboot it. I'm supposed to hit Control H followed by F11, the select boot select menu. So I hit the wrong key. I went into the BIOS setup. That was not necessary. And we now had this boot, even though I did some dumb stuff again, this boot went fine. It didn't get hung on the LSI adapter coming up. So again, that's been a, I don't know, 1 in 3 to 1 in 5 shot of that happening. And at one point, sorry, stop talking. Hit Control 8, whoops, darn. Control H, got it. Hit Control just in time, and now I hit F11. Excellent. And now I point to the RAID ROM setup. And now I'm in the web BIOS. Okay, so I can do whatever I need to do in here. It's awkward. It's not as pretty as the Windows interface, but it'll work. So notice we've got the degraded drive. And right back with battery backup, came back on. So it's kind of cool. Leaving it alone, putting the battery back, it remembered where I actually liked it. Disk cache enabled, disable BGI, background initialization. That's an initialization, initial initialization, but when you break the RAID array, it has no choice. It's got to finish. Let's take a look here. It's got to rebuild, is the word I was looking for. Advanced operations, take a quick peek in there. The mouse is so painful, I should really just go with Alt-V and then Alt-G for go and hit enter. And what are my options here? Got to remember this again. drive group 0, go. Did nothing for me. Okay. Drive missing. Does nothing for me. Okay. So we've got only 4 of 5 drives showing. And we got the SATA drive back to, the SSD drive back to optimal. We've got an unconfigured drive hanging out on the bottom there. No, I got that wrong, sorry. We truly are missing one of the 1.364 terabyte drives, the 1.5 terabyte drives. So let's do a scan drive. So Alt S goes to scan drives, hit enter. And it's still totally not showing. Plane 0, 1, 2. Let me hit Alt D for drives, hit enter. 1, 2, there we go. It's there, it's just unconfigured. So this is normal behavior. We're good. Just learning my way around this kludgy, somewhat ugly interface. Okay, tab, tab. There is no rebuild option. All I can do is see what Go offers me. It's drive missing, okay. So I'm just going to have to go back and let me see a rebuild. Wow, I haven't read the manual or actually simulated this test before. I've used lots of other RAID adapters, not this particular one. So if I try to say rebuild using that unconfigured drive, it's still not going to get me anywhere. So let's go home. All right, well, rather than reading the manual, I'm just going to learn it right in front of you here and find my way to configuring this drive. So this is the physical view, right? You don't really expect it to help me rebuild a logical drive. It's just showing me the drive. So now if we go to virtual drive, Alt-V, highlights virtual drives, hit enter, and it says degraded. Fine. I'm going to hit Alt-G for go and see what happens. Not much. Select virtual drive and operation. Initialize. No, because that'll ruin the data that's on it. I guess properties might be interesting. Well, we've already seen that. It doesn't do much for us. I think expand is the only way to go. That keeps the data on there and expands and gets this drive back in the pool. So just before I do expand, I just want to see if I hit advanced operations, Alt-V, spacebar, Alt-G, enter. And now we look around here and there's really nothing else to do. If we hit Alt-G, go here, it just ignores us. So let's hit Alt-B for back, enter. Alt-X for expand, which I have done before, by the way, months ago in a 9260. Expand, go, and now it's saying default percentage to occupy remaining capacity in the drive group, or change percentage. Virtual drive expansion may also expand the drive group. Current and available, 100%. Yes, that's what I want to do. I want to get back to, whoa, available capacity 7.9. zettabytes? That didn't make much sense. Enter percentage available capacity. 5 point, no. It's not an expansion I want to do. I want to stay at the 5.4 terabytes I'm at. I just want to bring that drive back online. So let's bail out of there. Configuration wizard might be promising if it lets me do something with this drive. So I hit the wrong thing. Oh well, I did adapter selection. It's fine. Okay, Alt-O for configuration wizard. Hit enter. Yeah, it doesn't sound so good either. Cancel. I didn't read that whole screen. Back in configuration. Clear or new? No, losing data, that doesn't sound good. Control property scan, virtual drives, configuration wizard, physical view and events. I'm going to go into events and see the drive failure and what it showed. Sorry, Alt-E for events. Hit enter. Tab. Tab. Let me just hit Alt-G and go for the virtual drive. Does it give me a... Okay, not the most slick interface. I've had enough of that. Go back to home. So virtual drives is the only place where it could be. Alt-G, go. Select virtual drive in operation. So what happened there? Oh, yeah. So I have to click either properties or set boot drive. So properties is the only thing I can do here that makes any sense. It's not a bootable device. I boot off a USB. Consistency. Well, I know it's inconsistent. Checking its consistency is not going to help. It already says degraded. Let's see what locate does. And we'll go back to advanced operations. Locate is just make a blinky light go on in an enclosure. That's not going to help me. Okay, how about advanced operations? Alt-V, spacebar, Alt-G, enter. Remove drive. Well, let's try that approach. Let's remove this missing thing. So basically, no matter what we do, it's not going to let us refine the original drive, even though it is the original drive. It's assuming the original drive is gone, so we have to discard it, and then we have to bring the found drive online. So I guess that's making some sense. So I'm going to hit Alt-R for remove drive. I pointed to the right drive. Alt-G for go. Unacceptable. What the heck does that mean? Down arrow again. So I haven't selected remove drive or change RAID level right now. I just selected the drive. If I hit go at this point, does it let me do something? Nope. Let's try remove drive again. Okay, looks like maybe the only thing I can do is reset it. It doesn't make a lot of sense either. Spacebar doesn't toggle the drive. Reset does what? Reset just put all my radio buttons back to defaults. So that did not help either. What I was hoping to show is that MegaRAID BIOS can do everything I need to do from the real MegaRAID, the actual GUI, that I can dual boot off of Windows, and I'm kind of tempted to give up and go do that to bring this drive back online. Still feel like I might be missing something. Let me look things up a bit here. Pausing the recording again now. So looking at a manual here, basically rebuild's supposed to start when you stick the drive back in and rebuild. But you might recall BGI was turned off, background initialization. So buried in that menu, what you're supposed to see is be able to check the status and see how a background rebuild is going. But I've disabled that, apparently. So that now we might be getting somewhere into where I've gone wrong here. So in virtual drives, properties, spacebar, Alt-G, enter, tab. Whoops, too far. Shift-Tab. Where am I? There we go. Okay, disable background is now set to no. Alt-G for go. And that failed as well. Failed to start operation on virtual drive. If we go back home and then go back in, I want to see if the setting's stuck though. Alt-V for virtual drive, hit enter. P for properties, Alt-G for go, enter. Disable BGI is still on. So now that I hit change, it should stick this time. Go home, hit enter, and see if now we go into Alt-D for drives and hit enter. Wrong thing, sorry. Oh, actually that's the physical view again. Now that I turn on background again, let's see what happens, if there's any new options here. Come on. Okay, so that's pretty clear. It's not going to let me do it to the missing drive. Fair enough. But what about to the unconfigured drive? Rebuild, spacebar, Alt-G, go. Failed to start operation. It's not happy. Okay, what happens when I look at the properties of this unconfigured drive? Does it tell me something useful? Okay, make unconfigured good sounds like I've nailed it finally. So this is a very different experience than I'm used to with lots of other adapters. Spacebar, make unconfig good. Hit Alt-G for go. And there we go. It's rebuilding. Nice. Alt-I for progress info. Okay, well, it's going in the background. We hit Alt-H for home, hit enter. And it says it's in rebuild state. The red is going away. Excellent. The last time I played with this at all was in 9260, and that was with MegaRAID. I didn't really play with Control-H or the web BIOS that much, so forgive me for stumbling through it, but I think you learned a fair amount watching me because you'll probably make some of the same mistakes when you're trying to recover a real data set with important data on it, unlike my lab test here. Okay, so that's good. It's rebuilding. I think the last thing would be go into the virtual drive and see, is that background thing still on? Properties, spacebar, Alt-G. Disabled background initialization is set to no. Now that is a factory default. Background initialization is usually on yes. I turned that off when I was doing some benchmarking and tired of waiting for it. I wanted instant initialization, and then I just rebooted the RAID controller and went and tested. So that had nothing to do with things here. This is not initialization or data loss. This is just a rebuild. So it could be interesting to see the rebuild rate. So let's check that out. First, do we get past 1%? No. Next, where do we get to the rebuild rate? I'm forgetting. I think it's under advanced for the drive. So I'm going to hit Alt-H for home, enter. I'm going to hit Alt-V for virtual drive. No, controller properties, that's it. Alt-P for controller properties. Alt-N for next. SSD disk caching disabled because I don't have that feature installed. I will be doing that someday. Alt-N for next. Rebuild rate. Okay, so this could explain why my benchmarks were good. And also this is my chance to keep it from driving my family nuts with the alarm beeping for days now. Okay, so I've turned off the alarm. I'm going to crank up the rebuild rate to 90. So the word rebuild is the word it used, so I'm going to use that for, and I'm going to leave background initialization alone. CC, what is that? I don't know. Reconstruction? I'm not reconstructing. Rebuild is the right word, so I'm going to hit Alt-S for submit. It repainted the screen. That's a good sign. Check out progress. Rebuilding still underway. And now I'd like to go back in and make sure that submit worked. So I'll go back into controller properties. Indeed, rebuild rate is at 90. Cranked it up. I'm ready to reboot. Alt-X for exit. Yes, please reboot your system. Be happy to. So we should see no errors. It shouldn't bark any warnings at us on this reboot because we know it's happy that the solid state drive is back, so it's got that RAID 0. So watch carefully in this next screen. You'll see a RAID 5 followed by briefly a RAID 0 showing on the second page. And you might see something about rebuild underway. We saw the Samsung, RAID 0, excellent. One's degraded, 2 virtual drives found. No need to hit any keys, just let her rip. So you could probably guess what I'm going to do next. I'm going to let it boot, but I'm also going to do one more benchmark. I'm going to resume that virtual machine, run a second a copy of ATTO diskbench, and see how degraded I am for speed going from 30 to 90 to see if that was, stupid to crank it up that high. And then I'm, I think, done. I'll nuke that corrupt virtual machine, and the 2 virtual machines that were running, they're both suspect. I'm just going to kill them both, and I'll redeploy them from templates that were not in use in the file system, and my confidence will then be restored that I really lost nothing at all of any importance to me. I'll pause the video now and resume when I've got vSphere client logged back in. Okay, I've resumed video. Logging back in. Things look good. Health status is already showing. It's pretty quick this time. Over the mouse, what do we get? Degraded. Okay, cool. So Windows 7 clone, that's the one. Open it up. Resume it. I did notice just now my alarm is still beeping. So turning off the alarm did not work. I don't know if I have to reboot or pull out power of the machine or what. But having the alarm running for the next few days is going to be a little annoying. Okay. Takes a little while to come out of suspend. It's been 30 minutes since I suspended it, looking at the clock in the bottom right. Should spring to life here shortly. And if we were to look down here, we might see some stuff going on at last boot. I'm just curious. No, nothing exciting. It is still auto-starting vSphere, which is kind of useless because it's corrupt. Okay. All right, looks like I might have a virtual machine that doesn't want to spring back to life. Windows 7 VMs, I can't say it's the first time I've seen that happen. So before I forcibly power cycle it, let me just grab a screenshot of that benchmark result. Got it. Okay. Kind of lost patience waiting for that VM to actually work. Let's just see if there's any evidence of anything weird over here. Nope. So it's complaining VMware Tools is not even running. That's true. Because the whole virtual machine is not responding. So we click on Summary tab, we're going to see Tools not running. Yeah, so that thing's toast. Okay. Time to do this. VM. Whoops. Wrong menu. There we go. Let's try that again. Power. Reset. Guess those directions were kind of useless. They didn't quite tell me. I was looking in the wrong place. They didn't quite tell me what I had to do. I'm going to leave it recording because I could actually look at the video and see how long did this boot take versus the previous boot when I didn't have the rebuild rate cranked up so high. My impression is it's about the same speed so far. Okay, let it settle down a little bit, and we'll run that benchmark again. Okay, it's settled down enough. Crank this number up. Okay. It's complaining its disk is so slow that at first it said I'm not responding. So that is a sign it's a little degraded since last time. Let me pause the video and resume when it's almost done testing here. Okay, it's really taken a hit at the high end of the sizes of the files there. Let's compare. Yeah, quite a hit. Slide this to the right. That'll work. So on the left we have 30. Oops. For the factory default at 30. And then on the right we have the crazy 90 that I put it at. So 90 was overboard. More important to me is to get the alarm to stop beeping. So when this benchmark test finishes, I'm going to go ahead and shut ESXi down. Not a reboot, but shut it down. And I'm going to record to see that the alarm should go off. If it doesn't, I'll unplug the machine from the wall. The alarm should go off. I'll plug the machine back in. I'll turn it on. And I want to see if I get peace back in my lab here. Taking quite a while just to finish that benchmark. I'm just curious if the CPU is super busy. Shouldn't be. It's the RAID controller doing all the work. There we go. It's not busy at all. It's interesting how lopsided it is for reads versus writes. So the writes are fine. The reads are seriously impacted by the rebuild underway. Okay, so I'm almost ready to go ahead and just grab a quick screenshot and then shut down ESXi itself. It's finished. Screenshot. Got it. We know it doesn't hibernate and suspend very well, but let's try it again anyway. When that thing's done right here, I'll just turn off ESXi, and I'm going to head over to the machine so we can actually hear the beeping. And I should probably mute the microphone as I walk here. Okay, it's done. Okay, it's shutting down, heading there now. Just as I arrived at the machine, the beeping stopped. So when the machine turned itself off, the beeping stopped. That obviously makes sense. Without unplugging it from the wall, I'm going to go ahead and just hit the power switch and seeing if the LSI decides to start right on beeping again during the rebuild. Take a quick look at its LEDs, its LED is solid on. That makes sense because of the rebuild, although it hasn't even initialized yet, so that doesn't mean too much yet. But and now, oh, should have left it so we could watch the machine boot. I'll resume the video when I'm logged back in. But so far the beeping hasn't restarted, so that's good. Okay, it's a few minutes later and the alarm is still off, so that's good. So my performance will be degraded. It'll finish quicker than the factory defaults at 30, cranking it to 90. It will have a pretty big impact on performance. I did do a rate expansion once. I think that took 2 or 3 days. That might have been with my old controller, so I don't know if that means anything. Okay, it is doing the hang on initializing the rate adapter. So before I conclude anything, let's reboot it. So we have this history of if you shut the machine off, that is when it tends to have the issue more often. If you just do soft reboots, it tends to happen maybe 1 every 5 times. Annoying, but not a big deal. Not the end of the world. If it was actually a production server room or something, though, where you really want the machine to restore when power is restored, that'd be really annoying, but you should have batteries anyway in a production server room, or UPSs with generators. Okay, so if I could pass this screen and the beeping still stays off, I'm going to go ahead and stop this video, because we already know it's going to show the rate arrays in a degraded state in the GUI, and we know that after turning off my alarm, I just have to power cycle the box to get the alarm to actually take that new off setting. And there we go. VMware is booting in 2, 1. All right, so hopefully you found this deep dive into LSI 9265 RAID controller helpful, and thank you for watching. A minute or two after what I thought was the end there, I noticed the beeping was still going on. So now starts my effort to try to extinguish the beeping. So I'm real curious here if the setting stayed that I made in the web BIOS there. So we'll go ahead and shut down. Let me just make sure my file system is browsable. Yep, files are there. No problem. Okay, time to shut... Oh, health. Sorry. Take a look. So when the volume's degraded like this, they can make that trigger things, warnings and so forth. That's good. All right. Down it goes. Connection here should stop. Now we should see that go down. There we go. Getting ready to hit Control H. I missed where it says degraded or whatever, so it went by so fast. And now F11, boot menu, RAID PCI ROM setup. We're in. Enter. Start. Okay, the rebuild is still underway. What's the easiest way to get a view here of the rebuild status? Right there, PD progress info. Alt-I, enter. Wow, that was quick. It's only been 3-4 hours. Okay. I'm going to hit Alt-P for properties. Alt-G for go. And that didn't do me any good. Sorry about that. Let's go home. It's the controller properties that I want to check to see if the setting for the alarm is off. Alarm control enabled, but the rebuild rate, 90, stayed. Okay. Now, before I touch that setting, let me listen. See if the alarm is still going. Yeah, it sure is. As expected, because I didn't change anything yet, but it persisted even through a reboot, so the LSI is still doing its thing. Whereas powering it off, of course, genuinely silenced it. Okay, I asked for silence. Alt-S for submit. And notice it uses the word alarm control. So maybe that hints that I'd have to use the full mega rate to turn off the alarm. I'm not sure, but that wording, it sounds kind of like you want to be able to control the alarm if you leave it on, and then use software to turn it off. It's just a theory, but let's see what this article says here. So in a scribed document here, I got to look here. Well, let me listen if the alarm is stopped. Okay, the alarm did stop. Now let's see if I'm able to boot ESX and have the alarm continue to be stopped. Maybe if I remove power from the system, the alarm is going to insist on coming up. Don't know. Let's give it a try. Alt home. Let's go back into configuration of controller properties. Next. Next. And we know alarm control went right back on, but that's just how it behaves. The alarm is still quiet, so I'm going to hit Alt-X for exit. Alt-Y for yes. Watch the reboot and listen for what happens. The theory with the battery is this relearning cycle and the fact that it was pending was keeping the alarm going, right? What if now that I've turned it off, what if I can now put the learning cycle and re-enable it? So right now it's saying it's not enabled at all. If I re-enable it, let's see what it says. Okay, Let's right-click and refresh properties. Auto learn period is now 30 days. It's saying next learn cycle none. And we can't start a learn cycle right now. All right, so you put all this together, and I'm thinking that disabling the learn cycle entirely might be the way for me to go in a home where I really don't want that battery beeping. I don't really want to, I think the battery is likely to last 2 or 3 years, and I can monitor it through ESXi to see if the battery goes offline and shows low voltage, and worry about it then. Do I need to learn how many minutes it has accurately on a frequent basis? Probably not in a lab, especially if it means I might have beeping. I suppose if it has some way to remind me or alert me when it's time to start a learn cycle, no, I'm just going to get it out of my way. So I've turned off battery learn cycle learning. I've disabled alarms. And now I think I'm in a better state to have this thing running in my home lab. For power savings, spinning down drives. Yeah, my drives are most likely always doing something. I'll leave that at factory defaults. Alright, so that's about it for settings. I'll reboot and see how it goes and see if this truly disabled the alarm this time. Because Mega Raid's web BIOS didn't seem to have silence and disable and enable. It only had 2 options from what I recall, and it only temporarily kept the alarm from beeping. And why the alarm's beeping when it says we're in optimal state, that's the whole question here that I never really figured out. But hopefully this workaround will fix it. Okay, it's hours later. It's still fine and working, and it appears I'm all set. That my alarm is staying off, and that's good. So I'm able to disable the alarm from MegaRaid. As far as the battery and calibration thing, I don't know. I made 2 changes at once, so I won't really know at this point. For now, that's fine. I might reinvestigate the whole thing at a later date. Okay, so that's the end of this little video that talks about extinguishing the alarm on the LSI controller. And if we look here, we'll see health is normal. No problems. Battery status, we don't know the percentage, but we know it's normal. It's present. When I pulled it, obviously that showed up. And the RAID arrays are healthy. Okay, thank you for watching.